Microsoft Forms is an app available within Microsoft 365 which can give your business the ability to create custom surveys and quizzes, gather responses and feedback, and use the data you receive to help grow your business. In this video, we're going to show you how to use Microsoft Forms within your business. We're going to talk about the different types of forms you can create, how to structure your form, the different types of questions you can ask, how to customize your form with logos and brand colors, how to change settings, how to send your form, how to view the data you receive, and how to make sure that you can access your form even if the user who created it has left the business. So stick around until the end of the video for an easy to use tutorial that will help you implement Microsoft Forms within your business.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We'll show you how to create your first Microsoft form. So if we log into Microsoft 365, so you can go to login.microsoftonline.com and log in using your business credentials. Once you're logged in, if you head up to the waffle icon in the top left, and then you will see all of the Microsoft 365 apps which are available under your license. Select Forms. It's going to open up in a new window. So the first thing you'll see at the top here is that you have two options. So you have the option for a new form or the option for a new quiz. Now, if you select new form, it will allow you to build out a survey to send to your recipients. If you select new quiz, it will do exactly that and allow you to build out a new quiz to send to your recipients. And the difference between forms and quizzes are that quizzes, you can add answers and scores, and you can actually also provide feedback on those answers to the questions. So, for example, if one of your recipients got the answer wrong, then it would allow you to display a paragraph, a short sentence, just letting them know why their answer was wrong. And similarly, if they got the answer correct, you can give feedback on that correct answer. Before we go ahead and create our first form, we need to talk about the two different types of form that you can create, individual and group. An individual form is tied to an individual user's Microsoft 365 account. Now, this is absolutely fine when creating a form. You can do this, no problem at all, but you just need to be aware that if that user were to leave the organization or their account was deleted or disabled, you would actually lose access to that form and all of the responses which have come into that form. Now, the other type of form is a group form, and this might be the preferred option for a business for the reasons I've just spoken about. So to access groups, if you scroll down on this main Microsoft Forms screen, you'll see all of your groups which are set up in 365 down the bottom here. So we'll pick on our technical group. You'll notice actually there's no forms in there at the moment. So if we pick on technical and we can go into it, it gives you the option to create a new group form or a new group quiz. So if we create a new group form from within here, it's going to tie the form to the group. The only way we'll lose access to that form is if the group is removed from 365. Before we create our form, we'll just touch on some of the other areas of this home screen here. So Microsoft provide us with some templates that we can use to either send out to our recipients and gather data, or we can just use them as a starting base, and that's probably the preferred option for businesses. You could select this employee satisfaction survey, you could modify the theme, use some of the pre-built questions, change the questions, change the order of the questions, and then send them out to your recipients. As well, on this home screen, you can see the most recent forms or quizzes that you've accessed. You can see only your forms and quizzes. You can see saved responses. So when you've had recipients fill in your form and you've saved those responses, they will come up in here. You can see all forms or quizzes which are actually shared with you. And then if you've marked any as favorites, they will come up in this section here. So in order to create our first form, let's click New Form. It's going to open up in a new window and basically give us a blank canvas to work from. So let's go ahead and create our first form. So if we come up here, we're going to create an individual form this time. And the reason we're going to do that first is because at the end, after we've created our form, I will show you how to modify an individual form into a group form. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we create our new form is add a title. So if we click into the title box, you'll see it gives you a main title and it gives you a subtitle. So with the main title, you have up to 90 characters to use. With the subtitle, you have up to 1,000 characters to use. Also in the main title box, you have the option to add an image. You could use this to upload a logo using this option here. You could use this just to access your OneDrive and pull an image from there, or you could actually search Bing and you can grab an image off the web. On this occasion, we're actually going to grab our logo from our desktop. We've inserted that into the form. So now that we've uploaded our logo, we're going to give it a title. So we're going to call it Customer Survey. And you'll notice this icon here, Question Suggestions. Now, what Question Suggestions does is Forms reads your title and it suggests questions and options based on that title. You can scroll through the list of recommended questions, and if you see one which you're happy with and you want to use, you simply just need to click it and click Add Selected, and it's going to put that into your survey. Now we're going to use this recommended question as the first question in our survey. So this is actually a rating question, and there's a number of different things you can do with it. So you can change the levels it has. At the moment, as you see, there's 5 different levels. We could select that to 10. So the customer has the option of selecting level 1 all the way up to 10. You can actually change the symbols. Various different options here. Check marks, hearts, flags, stars. We'll leave it at stars. And if we come down here to these 3 dots, it gives you the option of adding a subtitle, as we've seen before for the main title. You can actually add labels. So we can say star number 1 is poor, and star number 10 is outstanding. You'll see in these 3 options again, you have an option for add branching. Now we'll come back to that in a later question. We'll just take a look at what this option here does. So this simply marks this section as required. So the recipient cannot skip this section. They have to fill this one out. So we'll run through some of the other types of questions we can have in our survey. So if you click this Add New Plus button here, Microsoft Forms will give you this menu. And it's also going to come up with the recommended menu that it gave us before. So if we want to get rid of that, just to get it out of eyesight, we can just click the close there. Now the next question we're going to select is a multiple choice question. So this by default is going to put it in the next in the queue. So we had question 1, this is going to become question 2. If we want to actually bump this question up to number 1, we make use of this arrow here. This then becomes question 1. Our ratings question becomes question 2. Similarly, if we bump it down, it's going to go back to number 2. All the questions in the survey, no matter kind of how many questions you've got, they'll reorder themselves as you move these up and down. Again, much like our first question, we have a number of different settings we can change for this multiple choice question. The first thing we can look at is obviously changing the question itself. You can modify the actual question up here, and then you can change your option names here and here. You can also add additional options by selecting this button. You can remove options by clicking the trash can. You can add an other option. Now this other option would allow the user to actually type into here. You can also add an image, much like we saw before in the title. You can upload an image from your PC, you can do an image search via Bing, or you can upload via OneDrive. By default, these multiple choice questions only allow you to give a single answer. However, if you flip the switch down here, multiple answers, It will allow your recipients to give as many answers as they want. So they could select all 4 options if they wanted to. To adjust that, you can drop this box down and you can set a specific amount in here that they're allowed to give, or you can say, I only want them to give up to X amount. So that covers multiple choice questions. We'll take a look now at text-based questions. Now, a text-based question allows your recipient to enter whatever they like in the answer box. So just give a text-based answer. If you want to restrict that, you can come to the 3 dots and you can set a restriction on that so that they can only give a number-based answer. You can be even more specific so that they give a number greater than, greater or equal to, less than, equal to, in between. So you can be quite specific when you're working with numbers. You'll notice we've got this checkbox down here for long answer. Now, you would imagine that this would give you additional characters in order to use in your answer box. It doesn't, so the max limit for a short answer or a standard default answer is 4,000 characters. The max limit for a long answer is 4,000 characters. What the long answer does is it just increases the size of the answer box, giving the recipient the ability to see more of their text and what they're responding. So this is a good time to point out that instead of actually typing your question in this box, you can actually use, by clicking this little icon here, you can use an image or a video to ask your question. So in order to do that, again, you just simply click Insert Image, and then you have those choices again. You can search the web using Bing, you can upload something from your OneDrive, or you can upload something directly from your computer. If it's a video you want to use, then you click Insert Video, and then you can either paste a Microsoft Stream URL or paste a YouTube URL straight in there. Next, we'll move on to a date-based question. And again, it does exactly what it says. It only allows the recipient to enter a date as the answer. You can also add a ranking-based question. Now, a ranking-based question will allow the recipient to order their responses in order of preference. So, for example, their favourite at the top, all the way through to their least favourite at the bottom. When they're responding, they can simply just grab a hold of this and just move their options up and down until they're happy with the order. You can also actually add a Likert-based question. Now, a Likert-based question will give you, as the form's owner and designer, the ability to gauge your recipient's feelings about something. So, for example, I've created a test question below. We're an IT service company, so an example of a question, Likert-based question we could ask would be, following your recent service visit, please rate us on the following. Please rate your experience of our technician between dissatisfied and satisfied, and then please rate the resolution to your issue between dissatisfied and satisfied. Forms will actually give you, based on what you start typing here, forms will actually give you some responses for you to fill in here. You can also add additional statements down here just to lengthen your questionnaire. Forms gives you the ability to ask your recipients to upload a file to the form. Now, there is one caveat to this, and that is that only users within your organization can actually upload files to forms. If you're sending your form to an external recipient, they will not be able to upload a file to your form. If you are looking for recipients within your organization to upload a file to the form, then you can set these settings. So you can choose the file limit between 1 and 10 files, and you can actually choose the maximum file size, so between 10 meg and a gig. Now, I briefly mentioned branching earlier. So in order to demonstrate branching, I'm going to create a new multiple choice question. And we're going to give the answers as yes and no. We can also bump the question up the list slightly, just by clicking this arrow. Okay, so branching will basically allow your recipient to answer a question and then be sent to a different question rather than the next question in the queue. So in order to set that up, you would click the three dots and you would click Add Branching. You then find your question. Here's our multiple choice question. And depending on the answer, you can tell it exactly which question to go to next. So if the recipient answers yes, we're going to send them down to question 5, which is below. And if the recipient, or you could select next, if the recipient answers no, we're going to send them straight to the end of the form where they can upload the file. Once we've done that, if we move back, job done on branching. Okay, so there are a couple more things to run through before we head into the settings on our form. First one is section. So Forms allows you to break your form or your survey out into sections. So if you wanted just to keep various areas of the form separate, give them kind of subheadings, for example, then you could easily do that using sections. You can actually move questions between sections. However, they don't start numerically again. They keep the same question number. Now, the final question I'm going to show you is the Net Promoter Score. Now, if you're in a customer service or customer facing role, you may already be familiar with the Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is otherwise known as NPS, and it's a customer satisfaction benchmark that measures how likely your customers are to recommend your business to a friend. Responses to the NPS Promoter Score question are categorized into 3 different groups. So you would have NPS promoters. So those guys would rate between a 9 and a 10. You would have NPS passive, who they would rate the question a 7 or an 8. And you would have NPS detractors, who would rate the question between 0 and 6. Now, in order to calculate your Net Promoter Score, you would subtract the percentage of detractors from the percentage of promoters, and then you would realize your Net Promoter Score. So moving on from questions now, we're going to show you how to change the style of your form. Now, if you come up to the top of the bar here and click Style, you'll see you get a number of kind of built templates, or themes, should I say. Now, these themes are actually cleverly tied to the title of your form. So as our form is called Customer Survey, if we call it Fun Customer Survey, you'll notice the themes change over here. Let's call it Party Customer Survey. The themes are going to change again. Back to Customer Survey. So you can then select one of these pre-built themes, and it's going to change the style of your form, background and color-wise. Alternatively, you can simply just change the color down here. You can upload your own image, as we saw before, and you can actually put in your hex code. So if you have brand colors, you can pop the code in there, and it's going to color code the background to your brand. If we go back here, you can add background music. Just some simple templated background music here. And by dropping this down, you can see all the different themes and things that you can actually select. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and preview our form by coming up to the bar at the top and clicking preview. Now the first view you will see is a preview of the form we've created, which would display on a recipient's desktop PC or Mac. You can actually flip this to see how it would display on their mobile device by just clicking the mobile button at the top. And then Forms gives you a nice little view of a smartphone that you can scroll through and you can see how it's been laid out. And then again, flip back to computer. Here you can test the form by selecting options, typing in your answers, filling in dates. Once you're happy, you can click next. You can actually test the form here. So by clicking next, I've missed a question which was required. So we can pop all the way back up. Question 1 was required. So once we select that, we should be able to click next and preview the rest of our form. So there you go, there's our file upload. Here's our NPS question at the end. Once the recipients filled all of the questions in and all of the required questions, they can click submit and you will be sent a notification. Come back out of this, back to our form builder, you'll actually see the AI within Forms is prompting some changes to the form. So this will always live next to here, and the number denotes the number of changes Forms is recommending. So here it's saying allow respondents to edit their responses so you can get more concise data before your forms are due. So if you wanted to avoid locking them in to their first answer, you could go ahead and turn that on. The next thing it's advising is you sharing a description of your form to encourage responses. So we'll actually go ahead and add that. There you go, there's something pre-built. So before we send our form to collect responses, let's go ahead and look at the settings. If we come up here, click the 3 dots and then click settings. The first thing you will see is who can fill this form out. So you have 3 options here. So you have the option for anyone to respond. That includes internal and external users. Only people within the organization can respond, and they need to be signed into Microsoft 365 in order to respond. And specific people within the organization can respond. You'll notice that anyone can respond is actually currently grayed out. Now, this is because we've selected a file upload question to put within our form. And if you remember, I mentioned that only internal recipients can upload files. So if we go ahead and just come back to the form and remove that question, and then we head back into the settings, we then have the option for anyone to respond. They don't have to sign into Microsoft 365. We'll go ahead and we'll leave it on anyone can respond for the time being, and we will come down and we'll look at the options for responses. Now, by default, accept responses is turned on because, of course, we want to accept responses from our recipients. You can, in fact, set a start date for when you want the recipients to be able to start inputting data into the form. And you can also then set an end date for when you want the recipients to be unable to input data into the form. So we'll go ahead and we'll just set this a week out. You can actually set a time duration for your recipient filling out the form. Now, this is a really good option if you're sending out a quiz. If you don't want to set question numbers, then you can simply disable them. You can select to show a progress bar so your recipient knows how long it's going to take them to finish the form. Once the form's been submitted by the recipient, it'll actually ask them to submit another response. So you can hide that by just ticking this checkbox. You can also set a customized thank you message for once they do submit their response. You can allow the recipients to save their responses, so they're able to do that by default, which you can obviously turn off, and you can allow the recipients to edit their responses. In terms of notifications, you can actually get an email notification of each response that you've had from your recipients. And you can also turn this on to allow the recipient to actually download a copy or print a copy of their form, their fully filled out form, once they've submitted it. If we head back up, we can these settings, and we can then go ahead and collect the responses by clicking this button. Forms then gives us the ability to select who we're going to actually send the form to again. So if you haven't been into the settings and set the defaults on that, you can actually modify it all in here anyway. So you can choose specific people to send the form to, just simply by typing in here and letting it search your directory. Or again, you can only send it to people within your organization or to anyone. You can allow one response per person if that's what you want, and in most cases I would imagine you would want one response per person. Once you're happy with the people you're going to collect responses from, you can then choose how you're going to deliver the form to them. So you have the option of copying the link and pasting it into an email and sending it to them, or putting it somewhere else. You can actually shorten the URL. This is, the preferred option for most people. Shorten the URL. The long URL is fairly long, in fairness. So you can shorten the URL there, and then again copy the link. You can send directly from this window here. So again, you could send to a recipient within your organization or external, and you can choose to do that via Outlook or via Teams or both. You could download a QR code, so you could then put this somewhere. You could put it on a business card or a flyer or something like that, or you can get some embed code, and then you could put the form directly onto your website, or as it states here, within Microsoft Sway. So once you've decided who you're going to send your form to and how you're going to send it, you can go ahead and send it, and then you can wait for the responses to roll in. Now, in order to show you the responses, we'll pop back to a form I created earlier, and we will dive in to the responses section, which is up here on the menu bar. You'll notice the number of responses we've had in this form. So if we select the responses button, this will give you the overview of all of the responses you've had from your recipients, how the answers to the questions have stacked up in a nice graphical view. If we pop up to the top here and we click this View Results button, it actually lets you scroll through each recipient, so you can see how long it took them to complete the form. If they filled their name in, then you can actually see who responded. You can see how they responded for each of the questions. Back. You can export all the responses to Excel. You could delete all the responses and print them, or you can share a link for someone. If you're still waiting on responses, you can remind those people who haven't filled it in, which is quite a nice feature. So that brings us to the end of our forms demonstration. But if you remember earlier, we spoke about the two different types of forms, so the individual form and the group form. And we went ahead and we created an individual form. So in order to convert an individual form to a group form, we need to create the individual form, and then we come down to recent forms and we can click the three dots here, and you can actually select it to move to a group. You can then go ahead and you can select the group you want to move it to. Now, all of these groups need to be built in 365 prior to doing this, and then simply click move. That will then take the form away from the individual and give it to the group. If we just refresh this screen, and you'll notice that our technical group now has one form. We can go in and we can see the form.
So there you have it, the basics of Microsoft Forms to help your business get started. Subscribe to the channel for more useful and valuable content, and we will see you in the next video.